because mid laner didn't put the Raptor ward far in enough?
I didn't actually see who put that ward. Usually the jungler themselves put that ward because they
Oh,
recall and put a
oh,
sweeper.
oh, okay.
So
I was trying to get
I
a little victory for the junglers out there.
copy that, copy that. So okay, so I was confused for a second, but the graphic is obviously turned. I was like, does Misfits from here choose red side again? No. Vitality B is on red side, Misfits from here on blue side, and looking like they're sticking with some of the bans. Remember, Misfits from here themselves banned Talia. I think they might not do that themselves this time around, seeing as they have blue side. But if they do, then it's the same exact picks. And it's not. They ban away the Swain.
It's relatively it's in contrast to what we were talking about in the previous game, whereby we were expecting Misfits Premier to come out and draft heavily towards the bot side, but they ended up going for that R5 counter. Now with Vitality B being on the other side of that, now being able to play spoiler to that, able to play the counter, they're probably, I would imagine they draft a composition whereby if they're not going for those early priorities in the Gnar, for example, it can be quite difficult in this current meta to find that counter pick in the top side, even if you do have a carry player, because the Gnar is something you need to be taking a lot of the time. You take it early into the draft. Do you feel like they're going to put priority towards that? Or are we going to build towards an R5 counter support?
I mean, you could easily see a Yumi and a jungler coming through here.
Yeah.
And then you would take it from that end if they're looking to play that themselves. Again, they're actually just saying, you know what? I'm not playing Gnar again. You can have the champion if you want to. I'm locking in the GP. Remember, we are on 12.13, so the nerfs has not come through yet. We could also just be in a position where Jack Troll just says, you know what? I don't like playing Yumi. I'm going to give it to you. If you want to play it, I'm perfectly fine with that. And it looks like they're going to secure the counter pick in the Ahri into the Talia.
Talk to me a little bit about this matchup, the Talia versus Ahri.
I've seen it so many times. It just looks like every pro is looking for Ahri into the Talia, and it's just because Talia's push is actually not as good as early game as you would think it is, to the point where Ahri can contest it. And then you just look for 2v2s in the early game. You have to set up for it itself. And all in all, it's just not a bad pick in terms of fighting skirmishing from the mid game. I do believe Talia is more annoying in terms of broadening the map. But now at least Vitality B have the Gangplank on Sugenda to kind of mitigate that. And yeah, I think now with the Gnar still being up, you kind of just pick that into the Gangplank. It's not like neither side is unhappy about the matchup. Gnar takes priority in the early game, Gangplank gets scaling. You kind of just handshake in terms of when you're going to be prevalent. And with Poppy just not being a priority by any jungler, Skeens is going to lock in the Lee Sin.
That's going to be the Lee Sin, and we spoke about that being a pick that Zlatan might pick out. There's two things very important for me here. We were expecting to see the ping pong of the Gangplank and Gnar going both ways for Katskos and Shigenda. Obviously, Katskos favouring the Gangplank, being his most played going into the split before we even joined the LFL. The Lee Sin was a pick we spoke about for Zlatan, how in terms of in contrast to him and Zanzara, where Zanzara plays these Skarnas, these Trundles, Zlatan we were expecting to pick out the Lee Sin, and we spoke about how that's a champion that needs to operate on these very thin windows, get a lot done in the early game, and not find itself falling too far behind. Skeens is also a Lee Sin player, which we kind of neglected to mention somewhat, but he's gone and taken that for himself. And in terms of what's been created so far, he's got lanes to play for, but I feel like do you feel like he needs a bot lane to further path towards, or is he just okay pathing towards
I just in general hate Lee Sin into the I hate Lee Sin into Gnar. It's like if you dash in, oh that's that, I'm not into the wall or the weaved grounds. Like it's about finding the perfect flanks. And that's why if you play Lee Sin against champions like this, you need a really good game sense. And that's of course for Schemes to prove. We've seen it from him before, specifically on this champion. Moving into the ban phase though, yes, bot lane of course will be pivotal. It looks like you're not really going to play for lane in terms of having a Gangplank into an Gnar. You're going to let that scale for yourself. Maybe you drop a few wards of Zugenda to keep him safe. But if you want someone to get ahead, it's your mid lane and your bot lane in this case scenario. So you can just pick an AD carry now if you're feeling it. If you still prioritize Yumi, which I don't really think that Vitality B does, you can just slam a Jinx again, and you can just move forward into a late game scaling composition. And we'll see if that's what they're looking for.
Let's see. There's another, how many is it now? 3, 4, another 6 AD carry bans that we saw in the previous game as well.
Yep.
There's a lot of focus being put towards the bot side of the map, which I feel like we kind of expected somewhat. We talked about in the beginning, we talked about in the preamble to kind of setting up this match and setting up the expectations. We talked about how Vitality B's bot lane do play kind of strong side / weak side a lot of time. A lot of time you see them on the Israel Karma and stuff like that, but a lot of the time they do pivot towards playing towards their carry, whereas Misfits Premier primarily play towards bot side.
And with this Nautilus looking, I was initially thinking Saya. I think that would be really good into the champions of Misfits Premier. But with Nautilus, usually we see it paired up with the Kai'Sa, at least OG back in the day. And despite, it might be a little bit of an issue just due to the range you have on the Jinx and due to the range you have on the GP. I don't think you can lock in a Kai'Sa. And they go for an AP option in term, finding a team fight come to play for, play through Zlatan potentially on the Viego as well, finding these resets. And let's see what Misfits Mia wants to round it up with. I actually don't mind Renata into the Nautilus having the Jinx. Sam Kench would be a fine option as well. But they might just look for the aggression we saw from Jack Troll earlier.
Yeah, we're going to run it. They're going to potentially run it back with the Jinx Leona combo that we saw from them from game 1. I think, talk to me about the bot lane matchup in terms of the Seraphine Nautilus, because for me, Seraphine, obviously, hyper scaling, going to provide a lot of utility, can be quite oppressive in lane depending on its matchup counterpart. Is that the case this game into a Jinx Leona? Can you be that aggressive? Do you have to be a bit more careful? You obviously have a bit of a meat shield in front of you in regards to the Nautilus, but
the way I look at these lanes is actually quite curious, because you're not really looking to get anything. Like, Jinx wants to scale up, Seraphine wants to get a few items as well. Nautilus can try and look for an engage, but the Leona should just be blocking it, queuing herself then either Glacial Aftershock, and then you just disengage the fight. This should not be a 2v2 kill. Mid lane potentially could have something, of course, with Lee Sin coming through and having the pairing of an Ahri. I think you should be looking to punish Italia in the early game there. If you hit level 6, she needs to die. And then from the top lane, now we'll have the priority, but GP will just sit back a little bit, farm a few like waves, get up to that point where he becomes the crit flank we're also scared of. I think the difference maker is going to be the team fight. I think there's really good team fighting from the side of Misfits from here, due to the fact that they have the Seraphine. You can just pull that ultimate through the entire front line, and a lot of other people will get blown up. Problem is, there's a lot of range as well from the other champions. Having the grounding with the GP barrels, having an Ahri that's so mobile, the same for Lee Sin, and even Jinx, if she gets a replay, will have an easier time dodging out on the Seraphine ultimate. I think a lot is going to come down to the support of Vander to really set his team up for success in terms of starting these team fights.
Yeah, completely. And if you wanted to highlight kind of a matchup specifically in this game, a place to look at, for me, it's very much jungler, because in terms of, I think they're both playing very high-octane champions that need to impact the map in the early game, that are both well-poised to do that, and that's one of the kind of the foregrounds that we saw in the previous game, whereby, obviously, Zlatan has way of that. I think that's something we need to keep an eye on, but for any case, we're going to have to throw to a video very, very shortly, but we're going to be back for Game 2. Don't go anywhere. And welcome to Game 2, Vitality B, 1-0 up. We're going to need the graphic to be swapped around. See, not with their regular season scores as well, because it is 1-0 to Vitality B so far in this best of 5 series. Found themselves on the red side now. With, strangely enough, a similar draft to what we saw in the previous game to Gold Ball, just in regards to the bot lane matchup.
Yeah, I mean, well, you swapped out the Yuumi for Seraphine instead, so the Enchanters will still be present from the side of Misfits from here. And Cleanse this time around going over to Jessica, so maybe we'll see someone go for the same commitments in the early game. But honestly, Jake, I'm not expecting too much action from the bot side of the map. If anything, I think it's for the junglers and the mid laners to really create the chaos we're looking for in the early game, or just be proactive.
Completely. And if we want to talk about this 2v2 kind of setup, because we spoke about how both junglers need to kind of get off at the races in terms of what they can do on the map, it is very much that tempo race that I want to be keeping a strong hold on in this first 5 minutes. I really want to be looking at how both junglers play out this early game. But if we talk about this 2v2, the interaction with the mid lane as well, we talk about Diplex, we talk about this Ahri being picked into Talia a lot as a comfort champion, as a champion, as an answer for Talia. How does this 2v2 play out specifically?
Well, it's from the mid lane's point of view. It's really on towards Talia. Whoever is engaging first usually finds the winning end of the stick, right? Just due to the fact that if someone's CC'd up, well, there will come a CC chain from the Viego into the mid lane with the Talia. Other than that, Viego's really looking to bridge mid lane priority into a different. And what I mean by that is that maybe sometimes you'll just see him randomly walk into the lane, help Chayek push the wave, and then just move to a side lane to get the tempo advantage and to get the availability of making a play before the enemy can respond on the side lane. Whereas the other end, well, the Ahri Lee Sin, hit charm, hit Q, find kill. That's usually what you're looking for.
Completely. I think you've really hit the nail on the head there in terms of it's whoever lands the charm, whoever lands the W from Talia. Set up the play for your jungler into the further CC. Obviously, Viego has a little bit of further CC that can keep the chain going a little bit further. slight advantage in that regard if you can find that initial CC, but something to keep an eye on. Both junglers pathing towards the same side of the map on very equal time. No ward at this juncture. Have them both spotted out, so pretty much operating around the kind of, you know, the standard information you have, whereby you guess whereby they've been leashed. You should know that they're heading in the same direction. Good ward here. Catskos translates that priority he gets in the early game. Means that Skeens is going to be spotted on that Krug camp in around about 30-40 seconds or so.
Yeah, but usually as a Lee Sin, you take the Raptors, you take the red buff, and you look for a gang, and then like Grumps or Crocs rather is like your objective afterwards. And seeing as both of them is pathing up here, we could potentially see a little skirmish for the Scuttle, where we of course would have to take stock of the priority. Jack Troll looking to mess with the mid lane priority at least a little bit. He's roaming up here.
It's interesting. Where Jeskler, who has roamed away, it's going to mean that Shaik has to flash here. See that Jeskler, although Jeskler's returned to base here, Jack Troll's gone for a rather aggressive setup. He's not here in time to dissuade Zlatan away from the crab, but it's a good move that means that, like you say here, Gulborg, priority is garnered in the advantage of Vitality B.
At the same time, Zlatan skipped the Grump, went up to the Scuttle initially, and with that, we're able to finish it off with the smite. Of course, the W taking away the shield makes that an easy time. And I like it for the Vitality B bot lane. You push it on third wave, Fiesta goes for a cheater recall, you move Jack Troll up, it's just moving around with what you can in the early games. And there might have been off a little bit more than he can chew. He has to use the orange and he flash away there. Skeens obviously was here. Means that Skeens delays his base here. In a little bit of a tempo disadvantage. Gets spotted out by Zlatan here. Going to be trying to clear that ward. One more will do it. Can't quite manage it. Wave resets to neutral and a teleport back from Shigenda is probably going to need to be precipitated by, or reciprocated rather, by Catskos. Raven the top side, but Shigenda once again being the center of attention of Misfits from here. This time around gets away with the flash. Learns from his mistake in the earlier game of this series where he of course went down without using that. Now with both junglers recalled, Shigenda should be in a position where he can push himself forward a little bit again, with Akros actually put in a position where his minion wave is pushing into Shigenda. And Shigenda's just going to try and take him down and down and down with some of the parlays.
Well, you know, when you CC someone in, we spoke about CC a lot this game, you do have to forward that email sometimes. I think forwarding in this lane is very important, as we talked about forward momentum in this game, how important it is. At the 5-minute mark, let's take stock of how the jungle matchup has played out. I feel like both junglers playing towards the lane, but actually, ironically, it's Jack Troll who's really gotten the advantage off in terms of burning that summoner advantage. It's going to be down for another 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I think it's really on Skeens in terms of can he get to that level 6 market before that next 2 minutes or so. He's going to need to farm a lot of camps to do so. Can they find the return in that mid lane? No summoners available. Look, if they get a slow push, they get a crash on a dive. Actually, with some of the... We've seen priority go the way of Vitality B so far. They can get that revisit in the mid lane. It could be very good for Vitality B.
They could try and look here. You can see Zlatan moving forward, taking away the Raptors. So they are trying to get some neutral gold for themselves here on the map, but the Fix might spot that out.
It does spot it out, and I think this is good in terms of Zlatan delaying the level 6 mark from Skeens, because we spoke about how for a play to be set up in the mid lane in the next 2 minutes or so, it's going to be important for him to get that XP mark, and just denying some of that gold, delaying that, obviously delaying his own XP margins slightly, taking away a camp is going to give him more XP in the long run, but in the meanwhile, he's a little bit delayed. That's very good. It means that just...
I thought the point was over. I'm going to talk about how the cannon barrage now has been gained, so if there's any bot lane fight, mid lane fights, there's some extra Vitality to move around with.
I feel like Seraphine, relatively immobile as well, and you always want to be having... I feel like a lot of the utility of the Cannonball Barrage does come in terms of utilizing onto a very immobile ADC. You saw it being picked a lot into stuff like Varus in previous metas, whereby you don't really have a lot of escape. Once you're in the middle of that Cannonball Barrage, it really can just prevent you from getting out and allows other members like the Lee Sin to really just get onto you further, slow you. He's setting up for a play on the top side here. And as his wave slightly pushed in here, see Skeens has managed to get into that bush here. It's a case of, does Zlatan know that Skeens is here? Have they read the play? Here comes Catskos, he's in. Cannonball Barrage comes out from Shigenda, flash away, but the Q does land. Sonic Wave, Sonic Strike from Skeens. One more will do it. That's a flash forward, first blood. Return kill. Here's Zlatan with a level 6. One more auto. That's a possess. Lee Sin-Q going to be maybe going for the wave here. Doesn't quite. It's a 1-for-1 though. First blood did go the way of Vitality B. A killer piece for each jungler.
But obviously first blood over to Vitality, and Diplex now with the mid lane priority. Trying to move down towards the bot side, see what he can gain. Chayak, of course, just moving up towards that top side once that play broke out.
It's most certainly a resonating strike in the early game for Vitality B. The first strike of the game. It was good from Zlatan. Almost feel as if they didn't know that the skins was there. They did react rather well to it on the fly. And it owes back to that previous thing we spoke about, Goldborg, taking away that Raptor camp, you feel as if. Because once he's taken that Raptor camp, he's a little bit further in XP, and it means he gets to level 6 before Lee Sin does. And it actually paid massive dividends there, because it would have been a 1-for-0. They didn't have knowledge that Skeens was here. And just being able to get that level 6 mark is what made the difference in that play. So it's the small things that Zlatan has done throughout this series that has allowed Misfits Premier to kind of not fall too far behind. Obviously, it paid dividends in the sense they were propelled into a massive lead. They are playing second fiddle this game. At least getting something back.
Most definitely. And I mean, it just goes back to the natural point of what Viego is. Now, we have hit that 8-minute mark, and of course that means that Riftel has spawned. You can see it now, it's a 5 priority. With the bot lane priority, they were able to move Jack Troll up first. With potential movement from Diplex, and together in a bit, Kakos goes in.
2 into the wall, Jack Troll comes out in response. This is Zenith Blade, he gets stunned up against the wall. Skeens finds the first kill here, Vander stunned. They're all in here, Shayek's here as well. It's a party at the Rift Herald, and who will be not on the guest list? It's going to be Shayek, the bouncer, that bounces the heads of Vitality B straight off the canvas. And they find themselves the Rift Herald. It's a complete strike back of fortune for Misfits Premier.
And while it did look like an in from Kakas in the beginning, the rest of the team shows up. They have the CC to facilitate a skirmish, and there you have it. They pick up the kills, they pick up the Rift Herald. Brilliant stuff for Misfits Premier.
Absolutely, and they've managed to bring it just down to an 800 gold deficit at this point. Staring down at significantly more than that previously. Going to be even more when they get that gold injection from the Rift Herald. Zlatan at this point, 2 kills on the board, 2-0, 100% kill participation so far. We spoke about how important he was in the game 1. Certainly showing up in game 2 as well, finding himself at a 27 farm lead as well. This translates directly to around 6 camps or so up on Skeens. See, that means he's at 2 levels ahead or so right now. I'd imagine it's closer to 1.5. Got that mythic completed already, and we really need to keep an eye on how much he can do, because he is, by my estimation, the strongest person on the map right now, Goldborg.
I mean, he's definitely looking strong now with that Divine Sunder as well. Does have that Rift Herald in the inventory, and he's looking to make a play on bot lane as it seems right now. He's still in a position where he's batting down bot himself. Not going to be here in time. Zlatan, though, is going to be spotted out on a ward.
He's going to get spotted out here. I think ward is a little bit further forward. I'd imagine here the players is going to be crash and then play for Dragon here. See, Ari's trying to get a little bit of vision out. See, spot the play here. Zlatan's moved into the river. They have full knowledge that that's going to be what's going to get played towards. Jeskler and Jacktroll did a good job, of neutralizing that wave state. Means the prio isn't quite there, but Woolite's going to make very quick work of that, getting that wave crashed in. Now Skeens, you can see, opting for that base here is going to mean that after this Raptor camp, you'd imagine they're going to play towards, but both teams a little bit too afraid to commit to it just yet.
They just call off the play, and it's good. It was a little window you had. If there was a play that could happen, well, you had it. You had the tempo advantage. Jayek is well into Talia, able to just scooch down there. Shuttle has spawned on the top side as well. And I think right now with the priority coming through, you did have a little window if you wanted to use the Rift Herald just for a few platings. But with teleport now coming through from Sigenda on the top side, looks like they're going to be committing a play up here.
Going to be waiting for Shai to get over with this blast count point. They do have a ward in here. It's a good ward that was just placed by Shigenda. Cannibal Barrage does come out, but he's not managed to get away from the wall here. W Orange. That's going to be a flash away here. Beautifully executed from Shigenda to avoid imminent death here. Comes down to the ward. Has a few seconds to play with here. And it's going to mean that in return, Skeens is going to get the Dragon. Wonderful execution from Shigenda.
Yeah, and it just felt like that Draken could have gone over to Misfits for me if they just moved down there themselves. They didn't in this case, and now Skeens still on the bot side, and with the information that Vander is on top side, they could be looking for a play on Woolite.
Absolutely, they could do. Woolite's under turret here, has both summoners available and the ultimate, but he's going to get stunned up into the wall. Had no time to act there. Vitality B, all of a sudden, Misfits Premier made the wrong move. A little bit of breathing room. An oxygen mask in hand, Vitality B are there to clutch it away from them and draw out the last life of the play. Rift Herald in the mid lane is going to be giving a little bit of gold over.
That was certainly a misread on the map in terms of what they needed to do. Misfits from here. Generally not in a position where you want to play up towards that top side. Completely left the bot side out to dry. And making a play on Gangplank, when he has that cannon barrage, when he has the orange, yes, it's well played by Sigenda. But I also think a lot of us expected him to get out of this situation like that and still be able to clear up the minion wave. As you can see, he so easily does now with the item completed.
Completely agree with you there, Goldborg. Feels as if the ball dropped somewhat by Misfits Premier, but not a news story for them. It's what happened in game 1 as well. They found themselves able to navigate the early game relatively well. Obviously did fall at a deficit in this game, but it's these small mistakes that mean that Vitality B, we've characterized this a lot of the teams. You can speak about the teams that kind of are a little bit higher up in the standings faced off teams who are in the middle of the pack. The difference between those two kind of areas, the upper echelons and the LFL, are the ability to kind of be given a finger and take the whole arm, and Vitality B certainly a team that we characterized throughout the split as being able to do that.
They've lost their own hand in that exchange as well, with the way they have managed some of their leads. Because, I mean, Vitality B, while they look really strong at their best, I think their main issue has always been their consistency. The fact that they have been able to drop games that shouldn't be dropped is really what has put them in this position. But this time around again, 3k gold lead. The position to invade, or at least have the setup on the bot side of the map, is looking really good for them. Let's see if they overextend though.
Shaeg has a double stun here. Jack Troll, as summoners available, going to have to flash away here. Zlatan looking a bit further here on the pink ward, is spotted. Give me the Weaver's Wall coming out, creating a bit of a direction. It's a really brilliant stun onto Jack Troll here. Everfrost comes out, but doesn't do enough. Here's the reset. Zlatan with the W does not connect. Here's a counter engage here from Diplex going in. That's going to be the Jeskler with the ultimate from afar that finds it. Seraphino encore. And it's a second round robin on this fight here. Vander finds a stun onto Jeskler, but multiple resets is going to mean that he's further going here. Trying to find Woolite, but can't quite manage to do it. Looked like a good fight for Misfits Premier, finding those resets. They get Jack Troll off the back of that Weaver's Wall here. Woolite's in trouble here as well. Use that flash away, but it's not going to mean anything. Skeens repositions himself with the flash wonderfully.
And just a brilliant fight. It looked like in a position where it's just Vitality to be overextending, but then they find the counter attack. As you can see here, they want to get a ward, so they move in 2 members, trying to just get that ward down, not anticipating that there's going to be a third in Vander. Think he's going to be under the bot turret because the wave is just pushed in. And then Skeens. That's a nice summon wave, and Jack Troll, he wants to look at that, completely whiffs the ultimate. This is where it gets dire though. You come into a position where it then turns into a 4 versus 3. Ultimate from Jeskler at the reset just really solidifies it. And even though they had the man disadvantage, they find the pickup with their cooldowns, and they're just now able to solidify one target on Misfits from near to just find the victory on their side.
It's absolutely wonderful stuff there. Vitality B, Jeskler especially, I feel like being able to find that ultimate. Super Mega Death Rocket onto Zlatan is really what started that one off in favour for Vitality B. Now 5k in the lead. A minute down on the Dragon as well for that 3rd Dragon, penultimate soul for themselves. In a very good position, I think it's fair to say, Goldborg.
I mean, they are loving this position they're in currently. They're making a play on the top side, but I think they want to allocate their resources down towards the bot afterwards. Actually, they want to try and take everything, so they start off the Rift Herald. They have Drake spawning in 40 seconds, so if they mess this up, it might put themselves in a bad position for the next Dragon. They're just going to say, you know what? We didn't have to set up for this one. We're going to give it up, and we're going to play for the Drake spawning in 30 instead.
And I feel like it doesn't matter entirely. I feel like Vitality B, Diplex has done a good job of crashing that wave into the top side. You see Katskos as well, playing for that tier 2 in the bot lane as well. If he can get that, it's going to be a 600 gold injection for himself. He's been a rather silent investor of this game so far. Definitely going to prove to be Shigenda, sorry. Definitely going to be able to prove himself an angel at some point. He's found himself just a 200 gold shutdown just from farm alone. Cleanse burn. Mid lane torrent destroyed.
And Drake just an easy setup afterwards. Like, you pushed in the mid lane now, you have the turret staking up, there's so much space to walk if you are Misfits from here. And you just can't contest it. You can look for a cross map, try and see if you can pick up more objective bounties with the Rift Herald you of course picked up. And May uses on the top side. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's going to be a structure back in the benefit of Misfits Premier. Gives them a little bit of gold. Still down 5k or so. Spoke about that previous setup. They committed the resources. I feel like it's good for Vitality B. We talked about the consistency of them being an issue. A lot of times before, we would have seen them go for that 5v4 contest when you don't need to. I think being able to play out the map like this, get that crash in the top side, play for the bot lane, tier 2, 600 gold on Shigenda now. He's got that LDR. He's going to have so much armor shred now. And they're really in a position where they can just wait out 4 minutes, play towards that 22-minute soul, and just make the game absolutely unplayable for Misfits Premier.
You're completely right. I mean, this gold lead, 5k, they're putting themselves on soul point, objective bounties. It just feels like we're in the same position as we were last game. And while there, of course, is some scaling aspect in a great team fight when Seraphine is potentially on 3 items, well, when you're on 3, Vitality B is going to be on 4 or 5. You're just behind the coal curve at this point in time, and it's going to be really difficult looking for it. So I think on the side of Vitality B, what we want to see is just them splitting open the map, take care of the last few turrets, and don't make some sloppy mistakes, as we did see a little bit of in the first game.
Completely and utterly. Felt as if it was a bit back and forth in the previous game. Up until around about this point, we spoke about the 20-minute mark. That's when Vitality B starts to really come online. That's when you started to see the 16 kills, the 20-kill lead almost that came at the end of the game. I feel as if Misfits Premier left somewhat slacking, left somewhat sleeping in this game. Really have to make sure they're online because they need to reciprocate. They need to respond to any sort of aggression, any sort of false moves, any sort of false jabs. They need to fully turn that momentum in their favour. Here's Skeens with a Q over the wall, Cannonball Barrage, Zenith Blade lands, Super Mega Death Rocket onto Zayek, and that's going to be Vander getting taken out as well. Teleport comes out, tier 1, and they're going to move towards the tier 2 as well. You can see Jessica's moving towards the mid lane. Skeens might fancy a little bit more. Flash into the wall is Zlatan. Ultimate over the wall here. Shigenda with a final Q. And that's going to spell disaster for Zlatan there. So Cannonball Barrage and a Pistola of absolute chaos. 10 kills now on the board, 11 kills on the board, as it was Woolite that got taken out in the mid lane there as well. We spoke about that 20-minute mark, although it's not quite 20 minutes, Gulborg. This is where games start to fall apart for the opposition when Vitality B get online, and it's most certainly unfolding in front of us.
And that's exactly what we wanted to see from Vitality. They set up a perfect invade on the top side. They take control of the vision. They take care of the turret. They find their enemy out of position, and they just take care of the entire top side of the map. Now, Misfits Premier is put in a position where they only have the inhibitor turrets to fall back on. Now you just need to take control of the Baron area. Not only that, you take control of the enemy blue side. When you do that, they're going to be having such a hard time moving into the Baron. And when they have that, well, the Baron should be easy for you to pick up. 2.5 items on the Jinx. We are looking at absolute domination in this mid game for Vitality B.
Completely and utterly, 10k is the gold lead now at 20 minutes. I don't think you can really be stressed enough how insurmountable, an absolute gargantuan lead that Vitality B have for themselves, even more than the previous game. They've surmounted themselves atop an absolute throne of gold at the moment, and to swing their weight around. You can see they're doing that very much so around this Baron area. Engage comes out from Vander, Super Mega Death Rocket primed already, Skeens off to the side now, getting caught up by the Nautilus Assault. Teleport comes in from Catskos, E away, does not have the Mega Gnar available. It's a reset, one more ultimate, Encore comes out. Diplex has one more, can he find the charm in a few seconds or so? Has to get away here. One more Q, that's a Seraphine Q that comes out. Going to be stunning up Diplex in the stasis now. Zayek trying to find as many Qs as possible. Doesn't have the passive Q available. One reset for Jessica could spell disaster. Skeens with a Q over the wall, couldn't quite find it. Weaver's wall comes out. Zayek trying to find Skeens. He's over the wall now. W, Skeens in stasis. It's got to be body blocked by Shigenda somewhat. Here's Wu light. Q lands from Skeens. That's a Sonic Wave with a Sonic Radar. Jack Troll into the wall now from the Gnar ultimate. But further disasters, and just when it starts to look bad for Vitality B, it continues to be disastrous.
And 40 seconds now for the Drake. This is going to be the perfect setup for them. In terms of Zayek, if he can do anything about it.
Oh, Zayek. I think this might just be a Skeens Q any second now. Vander's got to try and find and block it. Does manage to be that bodyguard. He can be your hero, baby, but he can also be... Oh, Super Mega Death Rocket goes whizzing past the ears of Zlatan. Almost hits his shoulder there. Giving a bit of collateral damage. Here's the replay.
Crucially, I mean, they stopped the death timers or the reset timers, which in turn may mean that Vitality B is not going to be in a position to set up for that Drake. And then replay here, Diplex forced to go into that Sonya's, and we just get this incredibly extended fight where it's just all about the skill shots. They miss from the side of Vitality, but Misfits and Premier, they stay true with their aim. They find the boomerang Rakakus, and you could argue that both sides should probably just reset now for the Drake, as we are getting into that in the live picture.
Absolutely, we see the setup around this dragon. Vitality B do have control of the area, now rattling down on it with the rattling gun from Jeskla. Goes down with no questions asked by Misfits Premier. Big barrel from Jigenda onto Katskos. Does not have the Mega Gnar quite available just yet. Sonic Wave being looked at by Skeens. Misfits Premier just forced to watch as their soul is taken away from them. The Exorcists on Vitality B have got on the Mountain Soul. So much mitigating shields and damage available for them now.
Good for Vitality. They can just set up for the Baron now themselves. They already have the Soul. Sugenda has Teleport. Level 14 as well. 3 items on the Gangplank. So much damage is going to be coming out from him. And he's just going to be waiting for them to respond to his side lane pressure. As they do, the rest of Vitality, they will just move into the Baron area. It should be so easy for them. And so far, no one's responding to him. And Sugenda doesn't have enough vision to walk forward. So they're putting this stalemate. The Misfits Premier could look for 4 versus 5 with Sugenda on the bot side.
Good do. He has teleported back now. I think that window has closed. Unfortunately, Vander going to get engaged on over the wall here. Zenith Blade from Jack Troll connects. Here's Jeskla with a reset now. Norla's ult is going to delay him slightly. Skeens in the front line now. Ultimate into Sonic Wave is going to find Shyek. One more E. That's the flash. He's onto Wulite now. Encore does not hit onto anyone. Katskos and the Mega Gnar is not going to be able to do much more than that. Wulite, one further Q. Pink Ward is jumped to with the W from Skeens. And it's a clean fight. Zlatan is the only one who remains. How much can he do to the minion line? Can he ration out and create a defense line for Vitality against Vitality B? Or will Vitality B just heading for a 25-minute, 24-minute even victory in the second game here?
1 second on Vander. They're looking for it here. Skeens coming in again with the shield, but I think they are just going to pick it up here.
In 24 minutes, Vitality B storm, raise, and demolish a Misfits Premier to go 2-0 up in the series.
And it's just so easy for them again. These 680 carry bands just putting the Jinx over on the side of Jeskla and then being responded by either Estra or, the